Out front next, the breaking news. President Trump furious after his legal team's abysmal performance on the first day of his impeachment trial. Plus, one Republican senator criticizing Trump's defense today, yet he still voted against the trial going ahead. Why? Well, I'll ask him. And President Biden not taking the bait on Trump's impeachment. How long can he ignore it? Let's go out front. And good evening. I'm Erin Burnett. Out front tonight, the breaking news. Trump fuming tonight after a disastrous performance by his legal team on the first day of his second impeachment trial. According to sources, the former president was practically screaming at his television in Mar-a-Lago as his legal team meandered through its opening arguments. His lawyer's performance was widely ridiculed, even by members of Trump's own party, for this.
There isn't a member in this room who has not used the term, I represent the great state of fill in the blank. But Nebraska, you're going to hear, is quite a judicial thinking place. We still know what records are, right? On the thing you put the needle down on and you play it.
Longfellow wrote, sail forth into the sea, O ship, through wind and wave, right onward steer. The moistened eye, the trembling lip are not the signs of doubt or fear.
Not something Longfellow ever thought, an environment in which his poem would be read. Okay, on the other end of the spectrum, House Democrats making their argument with a gut-wrenching and graphic 13-minute video montage of clips from last month's deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol, along with portions of Trump's incendiary speech from that day, which ended with the lead Democratic impeachment manager making this emotional plea.
People died that day. Officers ended up with head damage and brain damage. People's eyes were gouged. An officer had a heart attack. An officer lost 3 fingers that day. 2 officers have taken their own lives. Senators, this cannot be our future.
Trump's attorney even saying this about the impeachment manager's case.
I'll be quite frank with you. We changed what we were going to do on account that we thought that the House manager's presentation was well done.
We have a lot to get to tonight. I want to start now with Jeff Zeleny, who's out front live on Capitol Hill. So, Jeff, how did senators react to Trump's legal defense?
Well, Aaron, senators were unsparing in their criticism. That was just from Republicans. Senator John Cornyn of Texas said they rambled on and on. One Republican senator said the president's lawyers were disorganized. Another described them as awful. Another said it was a rocky start. So that all came as they were praising House impeachment managers for presenting a strong and compelling, cogent case. But with part 1 of the impeachment trial now over, it is constitutional to impeach a former president. The tough part for Democrats begins tomorrow.
This cannot be the future of America. We cannot have presidents inciting and mobilizing mob violence against our government and our institutions.
Searing arguments steeped in history on the opening day of the Senate impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. Tonight, Senate jurors answering a single question, whether it's constitutional to put a former president on trial.
These powers must apply even if the president commits his offenses in his final weeks in office. In fact, that's precisely when we need them the most, because that's when elections get attacked.
The lead impeachment manager, Jamie Raskin, a Maryland congressman, argued that it clearly was. All Senate Democrats and 6 Republicans agreed on a 56-44 vote, advancing the proceedings to a full-blown trial. Several Republicans blasting the presentation from Trump's legal team.
The House managers made a compelling, cogent case, and the president's team did not.
Republican Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who voted against the majority of his party, called it a disorganized, unconvincing case on constitutionality. The president's legal team opened with a rambling defense.
And you know, senators of the United States, they're not ordinary people. They're extraordinary people. In the technical sense, extraordinary people.
raising eyebrows even among some Trump allies, before a second lawyer stepped up and sharpened the argument.
At the end of the day, this is not just about Donald Trump or any individual. This is about our Constitution and abusing the impeachment power for political gain.
To make their case, House prosecutors opened with a video, zeroing in on the president's own words.
And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
And reviving terrifying images from the deadly rampage on the Capitol 1 month ago.
What you experienced that day, what we experienced that day, what our country experienced that day is the framers' worst nightmare come to life. Presidents can't inflame insurrection in their final weeks and then walk away like nothing happened.
So it was a spellbinding afternoon on the Senate floor with those very intense arguments from House impeachment managers, but it would still take 11 more Republicans to convict President Trump at the end of all this. Aaron, we do know the former president was watching all of this from Mar-a-Lago. Our colleague Caitlin Collins reports that he was furious as he was watching these arguments, furious at his own lawyers. But Aaron, perhaps no surprise as well. This legal team has been on the case just a little over a week.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? All the other team quit. Thank you very much, Jeff. And I want to go now to Harvard Law School professor Lawrence Tribe. House Democrats have consulted him on impeachment, and the lead impeachment manager, Jamie Raskin, who, of course, was front and center today, is one of Professor Tribe's former students. John Dean also with me, who served as President Nixon's White House counsel. Professor Tribe, so let me start with today as a test, right? The test to see if any Republicans had been persuaded after, you know, the last vote on whether this was constitutional. And one senator did flip, went from saying, no, it's not constitutional to yes, it is. That's Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican. Were you disappointed that more Republicans did not change their minds?
I'm afraid I had very low expectations. The fact that anyone changed his mind was gratifying. But the searing demonstration today was so profound, so powerful. This isn't a matter of grading and evaluating the performance of lawyers. Of course, the Trump lawyers did a dismal job. That's not the issue. The issue is, how can any self-respecting senator look at him or herself in the mirror and say, what this president did was acceptable as a precedent? As Jamie Raskin so powerfully put it, we cannot have a January exception carved into the Constitution, because in the end, it will be carved in blood in future disasters like this, some of which may actually succeed. The January exception is not part of our Constitution. The powerful demonstration today, I think, laid the stage for what we will see in the next few days. And the question is, will the Senate stand up to its obligations? It's the Senate that's on trial, not only Donald Trump. And for Donald Trump to blame his miserable lawyers, that's typical. It's his own fault. He's the one who orchestrated this mob to sack the Capitol. Get over it. You're the guy who caused this insurrection. You should be gone from American politics forever.
So let me ask you, John, Raskin told reporters moments ago that the additional vote, that flip from Senator Cassidy, quote, shows people's minds are open. But, you know, once you vote that a process, that a trial itself is unconstitutional, how can you then vote to convict? I mean, do you think conviction is still possible, John, that people who voted this was not constitutional, this is what this is going to mean, would then still vote to convict the president?
Well, Aaron, theoretically it's possible, but when you look at how the closed minds, 44 of them voted today to say they shouldn't even try this case, apparently thinking they can't vote to convict if they do, which is not a correct assumption or logic, it's kind of disappointing. But in all that mess today, I actually found some encouraging things in what the president's lawyers said. They really made the case that this is a criminal matter. And Mr. Trump should be in front of a grand jury in the District of Columbia. While he's not there yet, they made the point, this is where this will be resolved. And I think they sort of pointed to the issue of the fact this president should be prosecuted for this matter.
Which is a pretty incredible thing to say, Professor. Obviously, that's the last thing the president wants, is this to go to a court, an actual court, right, of law, where there are then penalties, right, prison penalties and beyond. So let me just ask you, Professor, though, Alan Dershowitz, you two have known each other for decades, obviously. Professor Dershowitz commented on the performance of Trump's legal team. He said it was, quote, I have no idea what he's doing. That's what he told Newsmax about Trump's attorney, Bruce Castor, right? Just absolutely slammed him. Castor actually just walked off the floor, though, and said, I thought we had a good day.
Well, if that was a good day, I'd hate to see a bad one. And I suppose Alan would love to replace Castor, but I'm not too interested in what Alan Dershowitz has to say. I'm interested in whether the country preserves its democracy. We can't do that if we only have what John Dean, whom I respect a lot, points to, and that is criminal prosecution of the president. Of course, he's committed crimes, but the standard of proof, if he is prosecuted for criminal conspiracy and sedition and insurrection, the standard of proof is proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And I don't think we can afford to say that as long as there is at least a smidgen of a doubt about whether we have a tyrant as president, that it's okay to have him again gather the mob and take over the government. That's terrible. Our standard ought to be, can we trust this man ever again to hold office? That's the issue. That's the reason the Senate has jurisdiction to try this case, because under the Constitution, removal is only one remedy. The other one is disqualification, and he should be disqualified forever. And I'm just not going to give up on that prospect simply because he might be prosecuted.
So let me ask you, John, obviously when you look at, American history, right, half of the impeachments in history now belong to President Trump. This trial, though, so far started off very differently than his last impeachment trial, right? That very moving and poignant 13-minute long video of what happened. A lot of that video, new video, we haven't yet seen. And we're going to show more of it to people this hour. And then at the end of it, 10 seconds, we understand, of complete silence in that chamber. Senators of both parties moved by what they saw and what they, of course, then remembered. How different is this impeachment trial so far than the last?
Well, Aaron, that was a big difference, the use of video. While the Trump lawyers accused them of getting a movie company and a big law firm to present their case, that isn't true. They drew all those clips together and assembled that and just had somebody else do the production. And it was extremely dynamic and powerful. It was an effective use of it in advocacy. And I think it could turn the day, particularly in the assembling of all the facts that we have to deal with in this case and part of the historical record.